The grand hall shimmered under chandeliers, every crystal catching the light as if it had been polished just for this evening. Dozens of wealthy guests were gathered around the grand piano, their silk gowns and fitted dinner jackets glowing in the golden light. But at the center of it all stood someone who did not belong. A 10-year-old boy, a slip of a lad, in a faded gray shirt tucked into a grubby apron. His trousers hung loose, patched at the knees, and his yellow cleaning gloves were still on his hands. His face, damp with sweat, looked more anxious than defiant. He had been wiping the marble floor when suddenly laughter erupted behind him. "Good Lord, look at him," one man in a white suit chuckled, his champagne glass tilted dangerously. "The help's boy, wandering where he's no business being." The boy froze, clutching his mop like a shield. His mother had taught him to stay invisible, to do the work and keep his head down. But invisibility wasn't an option now. A tall blonde woman in a royal blue dress, the kind that demanded attention, stepped forward. Her heels clicked sharply against the marble as she stopped before him. The smirk on her face widened into open laughter, and soon the whole room followed. "Good heavens," she said loudly, pointing at him so every guest's gaze was locked on the boy. "Isn't it utterly adorable? They've let the cleaner's child inside the grand hall." The laughter stung worse than a slap. The boy lowered his eyes, mumbling, "I was just cleaning." "Cleaning?" she repeated, clutching her stomach as if the word itself were a joke. "With those ridiculous gloves? My dear boy, one simply doesn't clean a hall during a party. You haven't got a clue, have you?" He wanted to say he'd been told to finish before the guests arrived, that he hadn't realized the celebration had started. But the words stuck in his throat. The woman leaned closer, her perfume sharp, her eyes full of mockery. "Tell me, boy, have you ever even seen a piano this fine before? Or do you only scrub the wood around it?" Behind her, another woman in a satin dress chimed in. "Perhaps he uses the keys like a washboard." The crowd erupted again. The boy's hands curled into fists inside the rubber gloves, his ears burning. He had heard insults before, but never this loud, never this public. The woman in blue tapped the piano with her manicured nails, producing sharp clinks. "This instrument costs more than your family will see in a lifetime. It is for music, not for the likes of you to touch." He stared at the polished wood, his chest tightening. Once, years ago, he had touched ivory keys like these, back when his mother still taught lessons in a small rented studio, before the debt, before the eviction, before she became the cleaner. But none of these people knew that. To them, he was just part of the hired help. The woman tilted her head, watching him shrink. "What's the matter? Cat got your tongue? Or do you only know how to scrub floors?" Her cruelty fueled the room. A man in a brown dinner jacket called out, "Perhaps he'll give us a tune with the mop handle." More laughter followed. The boy blinked hard, his throat dry. He wanted to run, but his legs were rooted to the spot. His humiliation was their amusement. Then the woman, enjoying the spectacle, straightened her back and raised her voice so even those at the far wall could hear. She pointed at him again, her laugh bubbling like champagne. "I'll tell you what," she said, her smile cruel. "Let's make this fun. If you can play this piano, actually play it, I shall take you in myself." The room gasped, then burst into louder laughter than before. Some clapped as if she had delivered the joke of the night. The boy's heart pounded. "Take him in!" As if he didn't have a mother who worked herself to exhaustion just to keep him fed, as if he were some stray dog they could make a bet on. His chest ached with anger, but the laughter drowned him out. The woman folded her arms, smirking. "Well, what's it to be, little cleaner? Show us what you can do, or admit you're only good for scrubbing our floors." The boy's eyes flickered between her mocking smile and the gleaming keys of the piano. Everyone waited for his shame. In that moment, the silence seemed heavier than sound. "Well," she pressed, "play or admit what you are." The boy swallowed hard. Slowly he tugged his gloves off, stuffing the yellow rubber into his apron pocket. His bare fingers hovered above the keys. The crowd chuckled. "Look, he's actually going to try," a man jeered. "This ought to be good," another woman whispered, her tone dripping with sarcasm. The boy closed his eyes. For a moment the grand hall disappeared. In its place he saw a dim room, a second-hand piano, and his mother's gentle voice guiding his small hands. Don't just press the keys, son. Feel them. Let them speak for you. His fingers pressed down, hesitant at first. A single fragile note floated out. The guests chuckled, but then his hands moved again and again. The laughter began to fade as a melody formed, soft, deliberate, aching with emotion. The boy's back straightened. He played not for them, not for her mockery, but for his mother, for the hours she had sacrificed to teach him before life stripped it all away. The room, moments ago thick with laughter, fell utterly silent. The notes rose, filling the chandelier-lit hall with an unexpected, heart-wrenching beauty. The woman in blue lowered her hand, her smirk faltering. She hadn't expected this. None of them had. By the time his small hands landed on the final chord, no one was laughing. The silence was heavy, reverent, and then, from the back of the room, a voice broke through. "Arthur!" The boy's head jerked up. His mother stood in the doorway, her uniform slightly wrinkled, her eyes wide with fear. She hurried forward, pushing past stunned guests. She placed her hands on his shoulders, trembling. "I told you to stay. In the service quarters," she whispered urgently. Then her gaze darted to the woman in the blue dress. She lowered her head quickly. "I do beg your pardon, ma'am. Forgive him. Forgive me. There's no one at home to watch him tonight. I had no choice but to bring him. Please, forgive us." The boy's chest tightened. His mother wasn't defending him. She was begging. The woman in blue tilted her head, still reeling. Before she could speak, a man murmured, "That wasn't luck. That was true skill." Another guest added softly, "He played better than any professional I've heard here." Murmurs of agreement spread. The boy stood silently, gripping his mother's hand. The blonde woman forced a laugh, though it sounded thin. "Well, perhaps the boy has a hidden talent, but do not forget, I said if he could play, I would take him in. A promise is a promise." Gasps rippled through the room. Arthur's mother went pale. "No, please, ma'am," she said, her voice breaking. "He has a mother. He is my son. He belongs with me." The guests shifted uneasily. The arrogance that had been amusing minutes earlier now felt deeply cruel. An older man in a gray suit spoke up, his voice firm. "That's quite enough, Eleanor. This isn't entertainment. You mocked a child and he proved you wrong. Let that be the end of it." Eleanor stiffened, her cheeks burning. She had wanted to humiliate a poor boy, not be publicly reprimanded by her peers. The weight of their stares forced her to step back, her smirk finally gone. Arthur clung to his mother, who stroked his hair, whispering, "You did nothing wrong, my love, nothing." For the first time all night he believed her. As the guests dispersed, murmuring among themselves, the boy and his mother slipped quietly toward the servant's door. His small fingers still tingled from the keys. He had faced their cruelty and their scorn, and had answered it with music. He wasn't just the cleaner's son anymore. He was Arthur, a boy who had made the entire room listen, and for his mother, that was more than enough.